Welcome back to Brand Champions. I'm Howard Wolpoff, your host. This is brought to you by Teal, the agency. And we're here to talk about branding, but in a special way, putting some sound and music to it. And very excited to have our guest, Marco Vitali from Sonic Lens Agency here with us to share what he does with companies and brands. And Marco, welcome to this conversation.
Thank you, Howard. Pleasure to be here. Appreciate it.
So branding is not just visuals, it's not just logos, it's not just website. Having the right music, having the right sound, having the right, even going back to jingles, really makes a brand and really helps stick that into someone's mind. So how did you get involved in working this angle to branding?
It's been a journey. I didn't even know what sonic branding was when I first got into advertising music. My background is very musical. I'm a Juilliard kid, violinist since the age of 3, Juilliard at the age of 12. I worked on Wall Street for 10 years. I had this analytical experience, but I got back into music thinking I wanted to, for commercials and movies. I met the guy who actually came up with the term sonic branding, wrote a book on it. I started his North American office for their agency, and quickly realized that this is just a beautiful science. It's like a perfect, you're dealing with CMOs and branding and marketing people, but having to talk about music, and that's a very difficult bridge to cross. And so having had an analytical background on Wall Street and an MBA in finance and marketing, I was able to take those analytical skills and apply them to music, because I also have a huge knowledge of music, in a way that allows us to have conversations about marketing, conversations about music, which are very difficult to have. I don't think anyone can have them without a mediator like ourselves. So it's this beautiful little niche between marketing and music. It's not purely creative, it's not purely marketing, it's a mix of science and art. And I don't know, I'm thriving in this environment because it's mostly unexplored, in my opinion.
Well, I definitely can understand it. I used to work in radio, and just choosing the background music for just a spoken commercial, or when we work with jingle companies to get a jingle in there, it really made a difference to the effect of the campaign. But when you're doing the same thing, whether it's for television stations or products that you've known very well, like I took a look on your website on the campaign for Coca-Cola, and there's so many different brands throughout the decades, the branding messages and visuals and music. But this was definitely a challenge for you, creating a whole new messaging to start this next level of combining brands and making a overall arching Coca-Cola message.
Coca-Cola was an amazing project. I worked directly with the first global head of music at Coca-Cola, and we did that project together. And I'm still working with him to this day. He has his own agency, Disney Ventures. That was a beautiful project because there's so much unexplored territory in sonic branding. There's so many tools available, and for that we had a really beautiful way of using sound design as well as melody and lyrics. So they had this tagline, "Taste the Feeling," and they wanted that to be the headliner for this new campaign, global campaign. So we created a song. We had Avicii produce it, and we also had it rolled out in 12 markets at the same time. So every commercial that it was in had a different version of the song and a different genre of music. So we created a flexible song that was recognizable but flexible, right? And then we also created a mnemonic that could attach to the song, but it wasn't part of the song. And that was also flexible. And the mnemonic reinforced the tagline by putting a melody behind it. And not only did it do that, but we used sound design as the rhythmic element upon which the melody rested. And that the sound design that we used had sounds of thirst and temptation, and then the sound of refreshment. So it was like the sound of opening the can, the pouring of the Coke, the fizzling on the ice. and then the the swallowing, and then the and that was all happening within the mnemonic on a very subconscious level, but you could hear it, and that was the rhythm behind the melody. Taste the feeling. So it was like a combination of things that had never been put together before in audio branding. So that was a pioneering project and very successful.
Well, I'm glad I brought it up because it really did factor in many different sounds that actually your brain can really visualize in the process with the pouring of a soda and the sounds of it hitting the glass. And that's not just for Coca-Cola. This is a lot of the things that you do for companies throughout your experience and different industries, and the key is getting that message out and getting it resonate with people. So Marco, thank you so much for sharing what you do and all the great things going on at Sonic Lens Agency.
All right, thank you for your time. I appreciate this interview.
And thank you all for joining us as well. Branding is not just visuals. It's not just the logo. It really is sound and music and voice texture that goes into a commercial. You have to make sure that when you're doing something with video, with commercials that are going to air, that you're looking at all angles to make sure that you are getting into the minds of your consumer and sending a message that's going to resonate back into the revenues that you're looking for. So go out, have a great rest of today, and we will see you next time.